Hi, this is Eva from Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. I saw you talking about the mosquito tornadoes. I believe those were on the show like maybe a couple years ago, actually, but I've actually seen lately tornadoes of gnats also, like just this week. So maybe they're making their next round. Okay, so what's going on? First, I just wanted to very belatedly thank some of the patrons of the show. So this show will be brought to you by, these are my four monthly contributors. QP was my number one since 2018. Total of $250 over the last 2 years. Jay Emblin was the second one to come on, and I think that one was a $1 one, was upgraded. That's why it's only $22 right now, because it was recently upgraded to $5. Jason Maudlin, thank you very much, $5 a month. And most recent is Prussia, $10 a month, very much appreciated. So those are the four main contributors. Also, you can contribute on PayPal. So I'm just going to run over the people, all-time donations to PayPal. The number one person was Raymond Von Rossum, donated twice for a total of $45. Peter Blundell, $30. Jason Maudlin again, and Henry Olivier both contributed $20 apiece. Sharon Bailey, 10 plus 5 was a $15 total, two different ones, two different donations. And then $5 donations by Mebius. I'm sorry, I cannot read Chinese, so I'm going by your email name. Stephanie Staton, Wendy Hoke, and Rita Childress. Well, I believe that's everybody. PayPal has changed their layout like 6 times since I set that up, and I can't even figure out how to find the donations on there anymore, so I went by my email, and so I'm hoping I got everybody. But anyway, yes, special thanks to Cupie and Prussia, my main two contributors, and Jay Emblin and Jason Maudlin, my second two. All right. I just apologize to all of you because I'm terrible at properly thanking people, because I'm just like, don't take the time to look and take care of things, and it's actually a very bad habit of mine. So the only reason you don't really see that, because I concentrate really hard on the live streaming part to get my ducks in order, but I'm not always good at, I'm actually terribly bad at a lot of little details of things. All right. Been meaning to do that a long time. Actually, I've been feeling good this week. That's one of the reasons why I have the energy to do extra things. See what you guys are up. All right, so who's in here? DD74, Mark. 2 people. DD74, I don't think I remember that one. Michael Fontaine, Lunar Skyclad. Eliani. Yes, I don't remember you. Welcome very much. Adam Ant. I always remember that one because I had this friend that totally was in love with Adam Ant, so it's very easy to remember. Of course, her parents were religious, so they banned her from ever watching his any of his stuff, so of course she wanted to do it twice as much. KDB, Shari D is in, thank you. Jumping Ship is in. Silver E55. Sap Yoit. Blue Blood uses copper ions instead of iron ions. And the issue is that it cannot deal with high CO2 percentages and needs foods with little iron ions and more copper ions. Blue Blood, copper ion. This is some kind of new thing. Blue Blood, copper ions? Are we talking about some of those blue blood animals? Okay, I think we've covered those before, those blue blood animals. I was just wondering if we were talking about people yet, because I mean, I have a feeling it's coming, the blue blood people, because they're banding around that word too much. Some kind of people who have Hemocyanine, apparently, is what it's called. Wonder if they have anything like that yet. Hemocyanine. We've got a word for the blue blood. Humans. In humans. Humans would be very much slower moving and less energetic than they are with iron-based blood because they would not have an abundant and oxygen supply. Huh. So that's kind of interesting because I don't remember there being any blue-blooded animals at all in my timeline way back, but there was definitely a lot more oxygen way back. There wasn't all this nitrogen in the air. It was mostly oxygen as the number one. Nitrogen was a small percentage. So this is almost like reverse storyline from what I've seen. Okay. I still have a feeling maybe they'll get these like long-lived, sleepy blue bloods or something. It'll probably be me because I'm sleepy all the time now. Yes, blood in humans is real. You mean blue blood? I've seen those ones where they had the blue people and they said it was lack of oxygen, but they didn't say it was hemocyanine. So if that's the new story, then it's changed. Blood, humans. I'll try one more shot at this, but... All right, that's that other Emmy where a lot of us remember the veins having blue blood, and that's why they look blue, but then it would oxygenate the minute oxygen touched it so that it would still look red when you bleed. That was the story. Looking back on it, it did seem kind of fishy that it could oxygenate so fast that you never saw its bluishness, but... So... Exohematology. Yeah, see, the new story is the veins are a result of light scatter from the walls of deep blood. Okay, yeah, I'm still not seeing any humans yet. Please take a look at my early posts. Would like to sponsor you with my new tactile earphones. New way to experience audio, but great for streaming. I wonder if, I mean, I may not be the best person to try it on because I'm not really techie. And to be honest, I'm kind of paranoid about any tech. Any new tech from here on out. And then the vagus nerve kind of freaks me out because they didn't talk about the vagus nerve ever. I've never even heard of it until that time that Bush, the president, baby Bush, supposedly, well, he collapsed and hit his head. I don't know if you remember that story. Hopefully it still happened in this timeline. He collapsed and hit his head while he was drinking beers, and they said that he choked on a pretzel, and it hit his vagus nerve and caused him to temporarily pass out. And then for some reason, like, it just seemed like I was the only one in the planet that goes, well, maybe he just drank a few too many beers. It was a lot more likely than a pretzel hitting his vagus nerve, which I never heard of. And I'm like, what the F's the vagus nerve? And now they're saying that, like, Alzheimer's travels up the vagus nerve from the gut and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. The vagus nerve. I think that might be an ME, but I can't swear to it. It's an old one. It would have to go back to Bush, but... There's a condition where people can have green blood. Green blood. I've heard of the blue blood due to lack of oxygenation. Sulfur rare in which there is excess sulfur hemoglobin in the blood. The pigment is greenish derivative of hemoglobin, which cannot be converted back to normal functional hemoglobin. It causes cyanosis even at low blood levels. I think I covered this. There was something that turned the blood a little bit funny colored. I thought it was temporary last I checked it, though. Look at how short this wiki is. I'm a little suspicious about this. Rare condition. I want to see what color this blood is. Symptoms include a bluish or greenish coloration of the blood, skin, and oh ho ho ho. So here it is. Here it is. Even though a blood count may not show any abnormalities in the blood, this discoloration is called cyanosis. It is caused by greater than 5 grams per cent. 5 grams per cent. I don't know what that even means. 5 grams per cent deoxyhemoglobin. Okay, so what we got Spock now, basically. You can have green blood. Now that's interesting because it really sounds like if you just need a little bit of this and they won't even see anything really wrong with your blood, yet your blood can change colors. So basically it's like a super pigment. But I could totally see the storyline coming down that you could have this colorant and still be fine. Okay, so here's what I remember before. Can be caused by taking medications that cause sulfonamides under certain conditions. Sulfurhemoglobin is usually drug-induced. Last I checked, it was always drug-induced. Drugs associated with blah, blah, blah. Sulfonamides such as sulfasalazine or sulfur compounds. So you take a lot of sulfur, you get blue or green blood. That's interesting. Especially because I've been taking a lot of DMSO lately and feeling a lot better on it. I'll let you know if that continues. I don't want to really recommend it until I have like weeks and weeks of feeling good. Because sometimes you just feel good because you feel good and it's not really anything to do with anything you've been trying lately. But that would be pretty freaky if DMSO could give you blue or green blood. Because it's supposed to be like a sulfur. There's a lot of sulfur in it. I've been hearing a lot lately about like sulfur being really, really important for health too. So this is all kind of coming together. The blue bloods were the rich people. Then it's because of sulfur. And there's this all talk about sulfur being really healthy and a lot of people being low on sulfur. You can kind of see how that's kind of heading in the same direction. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. Cardamom. Really? You remember it as cardamom? It's been cardamom for me, M-O-M, but I've only known about it for a few years. So I can't say way back if it was always cardamom. 5 grams per cent, 5 grams per 100. Tank, do you have blue blood? You know, I'm wondering if that, oh man, sulfur, I forgot what it was called already. Sulfur. Sulfur. All right, let me just write sulfur because I forgot what it was called already. Sulfur something or other. Sulfur hemoglobin. Hemoglobin. I just want to see what like color it is. Actually, suddenly I have this strong urge to see. Let's see this green or blue. Can cause blood to turn green. Ooh, what's this? Is that real? That looks like a black and white with some kind of Photoshop. Greenish blood. That looks like Photoshop too. I'm just wondering if there's any like actual images of said blood. My third. This might be the real deal here, maybe? It's really hard to tell with media anymore. It's such a big fat liar, and they'll just put some colorant in a vial and go, here it is. My investigative project and finally achieved the crystallization of the sulfhemoglobin in order to truly contribute to the scientific field that deals with investigation and also in order to amplify my knowledge. Here are some pictures taken in the lab the day I prepared my first sulfhemoglobin complex. Let's see if we can make this any larger. Of course not. Anyway, it looks kind of like a dark greenish. It's fairly greenish. You guys could probably check this. All right, so yeah, it's pretty green. It sounds like that was manufactured, but it should be doable that humans would get that color. This looks like the same color. See sulfahemoglobinemia. Fairly green. Let's just take a gander at it to see. You'd think there'd be more images of this because it's pretty bizarre, but I think this is kind of a hot off the presses one. You know, they said blue or green. It could blue or green. I'm only seeing green, but but that article said blue or green, so that's kind of interesting too. With iron-based blood, people would have a chance of causing the death of the mothers, and the child would lose the blood and have red blood. I don't know. You know, I can definitely see your point, but there's so many weird things in nature that it could be worked around. I've not seen the giant footprint picture. I guess I'll have to check that out. I mean, I've seen so many weird things with nature. If nature can move Australia north, then it could probably fix a problem with blood type things. Footprints. Maybe it's this one. Pinion. Giant made or man-made? The giant footprint of Pyongyang, so it must be in China. Okay. This giants thing is really taken off in the current timeline. Everywhere you look, I think we're going to find some more giant stuff. I think this is the trend. Stories of giants inhabiting Earth occur in almost all ancient cultures and civilizations. Not in my old timeline, it wasn't that much. So supposedly, this was found in 2016, a giant human-shaped footprint in Pinyan village. I have not seen this before. I'm highly suspicious that it was all the way back in 2016. Definitely looks footprint-like, but there's like a big bump out the side where the big 2, 3, 4, 5. What? Let me look at that print again. That's a weird shaped foot. Like, look, so like he would have. It looks like his foot's all bent. Now it could have just been, you know, if it was my old timeline, I would say it could have just been a weird piece of bark that fell in there. It just happened to look like a foot. But in this timeline, no, I think that this is like a precursor of more cool stuff that we will see. You know, it really looks like there's like a toe missing, doesn't it? Doesn't it look like there should be another bump there? There's 5 toes, but it looks like it's all bent, or there's something should be over here. Interesting, interesting. Oh, it's multiple footprints. Oh, there's another one in Africa, hums. Okay, so I haven't heard of any of these giant footprints, and now there's 2. A third footprint was discovered in Bolivia, but CNN reported that the print was from a large carnivorous dinosaur. I mean, yeah, I guess there could be some, like, dinosaur that had that kind of foot. Said to have been fossilized in solid granite. Yeah, you could argue it could be a fake. It's not that hard to make a rock look real. Like, it'd be just cement. But, you know, the way things are going, I think we're going to see more of this, and it's going to get more and more legit. It's too legit to quit, as they say. There's a different photo. Well, that's like 2 out of 3 of them. I don't buy huge people over 7 foot. Your body struggles to cope. Well, you know, if there was like different gravity and different oxygen levels and all different lungs, and definitely we're a lot stronger now, and I think everything is just different now. I think that's a complete legit argument in the old timeline. But now, the way things are, I could totally see them saying, well, look, there was way more oxygen there, or whatever. Things are just so weird now. There's also the story that we have grains without having the intermediary grains like we have with other cultivated plants, i.e. wild onions, but not wild wheat corn as an intermediary to its ancestor. So they're going to, say it's GMO. You know, even the story that fruits were super different in the old days, like super different, that is kind of newish for me. This is the last 10 years. Like they would show this is the old watermelon and this is what we've made it. You know, the concept of breeding for preferable characteristics was there, but I never saw these images of watermelons looking totally different than now. So that whole concept maybe is getting a little bit more extreme. Who knows? I mean, I found something about green plasma, but it's due to the use of fertility drugs. Yeah, you know, but that's kind of how they start, I've noticed. First, it's like when I first saw that hemo, whatever the heck it was, it was only due to drugs, and now it's saying that's usually due to drugs. So you can see that little shift. The story, when some weird drug does some weird thing to the blood, you kind of, okay, then it's usually. Then pretty soon there's a condition, and it's got a name, and then there's a people, and keep an eye on it. This colored blood thing is like something I think we're going to see more of. Giants, colored blood. I'm still waiting for the Vulcan neck pinch. I haven't checked that in a while, but every 4 or 5 months I look and see if there's really a Vulcan neck pinch. I don't know why, but I keep thinking that we might get that. Dinos were called dragons. Yeah, could be. Anything is possible in the current timeline, I'm starting to suspect. I'll buy everything being weird. Yeah, it's just getting stranger. You know, the last 2 weeks I've heard a whole bunch of stories of people experiencing alive agains in their personal world, like cousins and neighbors, and name changes, and there's been a bunch of like personal MEs. I'm kind of wondering if maybe, let's just say maybe, and I don't know, but let's just say that maybe most of the stuff on TV is not like real at all. Like maybe there's not even a real person there. So like if you say watched Harrison Ford, okay, just as an example, I don't know, but maybe he doesn't really exist. Maybe it's just on TV, you know, like maybe it's part of the Matrix. So if that was the case, and I'm not saying him specifically, or I don't know, I just thought of him, but it would be easy for those ones to be alive again, because if they're just like basically cartoon characters of the Matrix, then they could change easily, right? I wonder sometimes if that was like getting us prepared, all this stuff, all these famous people alive agains, kind of getting our minds used to it a little, and so then when it happens to people we know, then we're a little bit prepared. I don't know. That's just an idea I just threw out there and just thought of. I have no, maybe it's not true, but throwing the ideas out there. Maybe you're not real. Yeah, I know. I have no way of proving I'm real. If you know of a way, let me know. That's true. I mean, yeah, I've thought of that. I mean, I believe I'm real. To my knowledge, I am a real human, as real as it gets for humans, whatever that is. To my knowledge, I am. There's a guy on Retcon that says that you should ask everybody if they're a real human, and then if they're he I don't know. He seems to imply that if they can't say they're a real human, then they're not a real human. So, I'm a real human. in case that counts for anybody else. I don't really do guests because, first of all, it's the middle of the night. Second of all, then I'll I talk too much as it is. There's no room for anybody else. Third of all, there'll be a lot of people, and then and then there's politics, because if you let that guy on and then you don't let that guy on, and then that guy's having an argument with that guy, and it makes it all crazy. So for all of those reasons, I generally don't. Sorry. It's mostly the politics and the technical. It's just like there's so many politics, and I don't want to step in them. Like, say there's a total stranger who seems cool, and I have them on as a guest, and then this guy from this channel wants to be on, and he's mad if I don't let him on. You see how it is? It's like, even if there's people I want to let on, if I let them on, then I have to let it's just such a mess. The person who you think you are is being watched by the person you really are. Yeah, that's that higher self kind of thing. I think the Buddhists have this idea. There's a lot of argument about what it really exactly comes down to, but one interpretation of that Buddhist idea is that the you that you know, like me, is really just kind of a conglomeration of certain environments and influences. Like, they almost would go, well, you're not really real because you are, I don't exactly understand it, but they kind of push that you're not real. I think the whole depersonalization thing is a bit much, but basically, if you try to think of where your thoughts come from and you try to chase them, there's kind of a wall there. There's like a pool of something that the thoughts come out of. I mean, if you do meditation, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And you can't see past that. Like, you ever get like an inspiration, like, oh, I got an idea, I'm going to do blah. Where did that idea come from? Because a lot of times it just kind of springs out and you can't really understand the steps that even took you there. So yeah, maybe the other me is back behind that. I don't know. It's like I am a video game creation by my higher me. That would be the concept. So as far as being real, I'm as real as it gets for like this planet or Earth or simulation or whatever it is. Yeah, it's already complicated enough, and then you haven't even started with the timelines business. I have a memory of a car accident. I never drive a car. I lost my leg in a motorcycle accident, but my memory is there. It's weird what. Yeah, I've had some weird memories. I have these memories of being a smoker. I mean, they're kind of halfway memories, but I have the memory of how it feels. I've talked about this a little bit before, and this was actually before the Mandela, maybe 10 years ago. Well, before I knew of the Mandela. And I just noticed that every now and then I go, oh, it'd be great to have a smoke right now. And I'm like, what? First of all, I've never smoked more than a few puffs of anything. And I don't like it because it just burns my lungs and it's all miserable. And I can't imagine enjoying it, like with my brain from this lifetime has never enjoyed a smoke. So there's this weird, why was I thinking that? And I would think it like every now and then I would see like a nice little area outside a building. Apparently the old me would go outside to smoke, okay, from judging by the thought processes. But I'd see this little area, go, oh, I can go and I can have my smoke right there. I'm like, what? I don't even smoke. Like when I moved into my current facility for my work, and I'm like, yeah, I can smoke out here in the alley. And I'm like, what? I don't smoke. Every now and then I'll be all stressed out. I'm like, I really could use a smoke. I'm like, but I don't smoke. And it was like really strong for like a couple years. It's kind of dialed way back the last few years. But it's like, I don't know, is there like some me that smoked? Or, I mean, it's a trip. That one is really a trip. I'm having the same feeling too, being just a player in the game with me being outside of this. Yeah, I think what I don't necessarily agree with is the whole Buddhist emphasis on really emphasizing that you're nothing. I don't think just because you're a part of something else does not mean you're nothing or you don't exist. You're just, like a cell in your body exists, and it may have its own rich world in there, and time might be different for it, and it might feel like 100 years for the lifespan of that cell, very busy doing all its little cellular thingies. That just because it's a part of me and I kind of control that cell to some extent does not mean that it doesn't have its own life. So I don't know, I guess I'm fine with it. Yeah, I don't even know how to smoke either, because I mean, if you try to take the smoke in and you're not a smoker, it just burns and then you just cough your brains out. So you have to, I think you have to smoke enough that your lungs get used to it and doesn't hurt anymore, and then you get addicted enough that then you get that, like when you're really thirsty and you have a drink of water and it feels so good. It's like that. Addictions are like that, where you're like, oh, I just really craved it and now this is water so good. So it's something like that. You can't enjoy it unless your lungs are used to it and you have an addiction that you're like feeding. Somebody told me this experience is somehow special and maybe worth it. Oops, I think I missed what the experience was. Woke up one morning and said, wow, where the hell am I, before even seeing the Emmy artifacts. Don't like it here at all. Yeah, well, we don't know what's going on in the old timeline, and we don't know if the old timeline is still there. I mean, things may suck worse in the old timeline than here. I mean, that was years ago, right? When we were in that timeline. So we don't know how that timeline moved forward. I mean, you're not going to go back to, like, the year 2010. One would assume that timeline moved forward to 2020. So what's 2020 like over there? I don't know. I mean, we might have Chick-fil-A with a C. That was my old timeline. But we might have twice as bad a COVID for all I know. Or maybe it's much more deadly over there. I miss me and his lives was on... The new religion which popped is Zoroastrianism, which basically says there's a battle between good and evil, and we move from world to world depending on good deeds, bad deeds after we die. Oh, it's not that different from the karma thing. I don't know, it kind of goes along with the make your own reality thing and a lot of the other spiritual ones. Chanty Moody moved back to Sacramento. Sacramento for me is way higher up on the state than it used to be. Used to be in the middle, but the state, the top of this, well, I don't know, I've covered that before. Okay, so anyways, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the world news. Yoinks. This was an interesting one. I think I covered this a little bit before on that channel called Peerless with that epidemiologist, but he's just so hard to follow sometimes. I mean, that if he would just explain it a little better, if you're not an epidemiologist, it's very hard to follow. But yeah, the YouTube channel Peerless, I like him. And now this one is the second kind of similar thing where they kind of just looked. This article basically says the same thing as that Peerless channel. Lockdowns and mask mandates do not lead to reduced transmission rates or deaths. New study suggests. It's from AIER. I actually remember seeing some decent articles from these people, so I wonder if maybe they're a little bit more independent thinking. But basically, the article says that they analyzed the C rates in different countries, and different countries went under lockdown at different times, and some countries didn't go under lockdown, or they only went under a little lockdown. And what they found was the rates were very similar in how they went up and peaked and went down, and some went a little higher and some went a lower, but they all had the same peak and valley. Now, Peerless, when I was looking at him, there's a couple of exceptions. And one of the things that confuses the issue is when there's all this funky reporting where they're reporting pneumonia as the C, and you get hit by a motorcycle and it's the C, and it's the flu and it's the C. So when you have kind of funky, ridiculous reporting of, and keep changing the way you count and everything, that's going to mess up the curve, because you're not going to be showing the real number of cases. But basically what they were saying is that they looked at a bunch of countries, and the curve all did the same thing. It went up real fast, and it went down real fast. And whether you locked down here in the beginning, it still did that, or you locked down here, it still did it, or you locked down in the middle, it went down. They didn't find any difference in what the curve did or how fast things went away, no matter when you locked down or if you locked down. So the argument is, see, here's like they're all pretty much the same. The argument is the lockdown's not doing anything. It could be that the lockdown helps a little, but then other things get worse, like suicides and stuff. But this kind of assumes decent counting, and some of the countries, I think, are being more diligent about keeping their counting methods exactly the same through the whole thing. That would not be the United States, obviously. All right, so what has been going on? Got that one. I don't know if you heard, but Berlin, they've been having a lot of protests about the sea lockdown. So now Berlin's top security official has stated that they would act to stop any large gathering. The argument was that they were probably gonna or have or will not follow the social distancing rules. I mean, I can't really argue with that. None of the protests I've seen have followed social distancing. Of course, you have an argument whether how much that rule is really legal versus guidelines, but you look at them and it's written as guidelines, and then suddenly when they're enforcing them, they're rules, but they're still guidelines. I don't know, the whole thing is fishy. But so this, it was just a little blurb here and there I saw, but it could set up some issues, because they're the anti-lockdown people are planning to have a bunch of protests in Berlin, and the top security official has said that they will break up any large gatherings. So keep an eye on Berlin, see what's going on over there. You can see how this is going. They're going to ban protests so that people can't complain about the lockdown, even if you wear your masks and stuff. The other thing I've really noticed is the goalposts moving, because in California it was either social distance 6 feet or wear a mask. It was like, if you can't social distance, then you wear a mask. But there's been a very slow, and not even that slow, a migration to both. You have to social distance and wear a mask. And I kind of seeing that with this Berlin thing, because they're not really delineating, like, if everybody wore a mask, it would be fine. So then they could just get people in trouble if they didn't wear a mask, right? But now, oh, you have to social distance and wear a mask. Why don't they protect our rights and our freedoms by allowing us to have a protest as long as we wear the mask? But they didn't go that route. Oh no, they're just going to break them all up. If the masks are so effective, then, you know, it should be okay if you're wearing a mask, right? But no, of course not. There's only one route that they interpret this stuff in. I've been told the same sentence by 4 different people in 3 different countries. They said, do you want to kill your husband by not wearing a mask? It's so weird. You know, we've been hearing the grandma, do you want to kill your grandma by not wearing a mask? I'm like, well, if you got the flu and spread it to somebody else, and then 10 people later that person died because they were really old, were you killing your grandma last year or the year before? Suddenly now you're killing your grandma. I don't know. What can you say to it, though? It's such a emotional, it's such a way to tug the emotional heartstrings that it's so hard to argue against these emotional pleas. You try to, somebody gave me $20. Autistic Savant, thank you. Maybe you had stopped smoking hypnosis and he made you forget you were a smoker, only you have some residual memories. I don't think so. I never heard of that, for starters. Um, and I'm not very easy to hypnotize because I am so stubborn and I'm like, nope. Some people tried, didn't work. Sweden never locked down. Yeah, exactly. I am from Germany, and they choose selectively which protest is allowed and which not. Berlin will probably be the biggest protest on Saturday for freedom since 1989. The government is in fear. You know, if there's too many people out there, how are the police going to break up the protests? Maybe they're hoping to deter it just by scaring people. But, I mean, if you have enough people out there, there's not going to be enough police and there's not going to be enough room in the jails. Not going to happen. Anyway, so yeah, the crackdown is definitely kicking into high gear here, though. Let's see what else we got. Well, we saw what's happening in Australia. Horrible. Worse than Nazi Germany over there. I mean, at least in Victoria. Anyway, more power to Germany, the protests. I do believe we'll get through this, and I do believe at least some timelines will be good. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I do think that people have to think for themselves. And I don't know if you actually have to protest, but you can't be like a blind. You know, you have to think for yourself, I think. I think that's important. Even if you're not out there. Victoria's halfway through their Nazi lockdown. Yeah, but you know, are they going to really end it at when they say they're? Oh wait, cases are not down enough. One more week. I mean, that's, I don't know if you remember, but in the United States it was let's do a 2-week flatten the curve lockdown. That's how this whole baloney started. Just 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. Then it was 3 weeks. Then it was 4 weeks. Then it was 2 months. And then we're, oh, we can't end the lockdown. We're just partially in the lockdown. And then the goalposts keep moving. So that's why I don't trust it. People keep thinking if I could just get to here, and then as they're reaching for the end, it's pulled away. The CDC has told us masks don't work. Yep. And, you know, there's a little evidence that they might, but then there's also, as far as cloth masks, but then there's evidence that they don't. So it may be cost-benefit ratio. The research on influenza in nurses wearing cloth mask versus surgical found that a cloth mask was worse than no mask. I've had that on before. However, that's an environment where they're just like people bopping around the hospital and they might get the flu, but there wasn't like Ebola in there or anything. So you've got a situation where you're rebreathing your own carbon dioxide, and it's a kind of a tax on your body. And it may be that, like, say the mask protects you a little bit, but now you're rebreathing your carbon dioxide for 8 hours a day, and that like weakens your immune system by like 10%. That could actually make you more susceptible to things. So even though it might block some particles, you're now more susceptible. It could be that the balance is not in your favor. However, if you were going into an environment with a lot of really serious virus issues, like really nasty virus, then it may be worth it to wear a mask, because there might be so much nasty germ around that any little bit helps. I don't think that the evidence is there right now that it's that the real threat is worth the damage to the health of the carbon dioxide. I don't think currently. I haven't seen any evidence. In fact, quite a bit to the reverse. So yeah, I'm not going to say masks are useless, but I don't think there's any evidence that they're working for the current situation. There's no point in practicing here in Australia. You get fined and nothing else. Yeah, that's the trick they're doing, because they can't make law so quickly without legislative action. So instead they make fines. And the fines can be worse than going to jail, because going to jail doesn't cost as much to get out of as like a $10,000 fine. So that's what they're using as the cudgel. That's what they're using here in San Diego, also in California. Is they'll send out the Department of Health. They'll send out Child Protective Services if you have any kids, even though they're not involved. They'll send those guys. Anybody they can think of, they'll send out. They'll code enforcement will then come to your place and look over to see if they can find any tiny little code infraction. And there is always a code infraction because there's 5 million freaking codes that nobody ever even heard of except for the code enforcement guy. Victoria is trying to extend our state of emergency for another 12 months. Yeah, I heard that. Now, it doesn't mean that they've extended the lockdown for 12 months, but I agree that is not a good sign. A lot of places have had a state of emergency until the emergency was really, really gone. Like Japan just recently ended their state of emergency when they were sure that there was really not an emergency. So, some of that state of emergency business is just so they can get access to emergency funds. But, in Spain, they're only shutting down British bars. If you didn't believe it, go to Benidorm Real Stuff channel. Only the British bars. Oh-ho. But who admitted it? I don't know. You have to read the whole language that... First of all, you got Fauci just saying one thing and saying another, but if you actually look at the actual research, it's not that cut and dried. It's going to depend. So when you read those, you got to read every little word. Like, there is no evidence for is not the same as masks are useless. But then when you look it up and you read the actual evidence, sometimes there is evidence for it. It's just not real strong evidence. You could argue it's not good enough evidence. But a lot of times when they say there's no evidence, sometimes they say there's no evidence for it. The research has never been done. It's never been checked. So, of course, there's no evidence. Something just got started like yesterday, and they're going to say there's no evidence for blah, blah, blah. Well, there's no evidence for anything about something that's brand new. So the terminology is very tricky on a lot of this stuff. Some of it is just outright lies, too. They'll say there's no evidence. There's evidence. If you actually go to PubMed and click in those keywords, then you could read evidence right there. So, yeah, I mean, not to pick on you. Obviously, the WHO shares most of the blame for that kind of a problem. All right, so anyways, okay, somebody brought this up last week, and I'm sorry I didn't write down who because it was in the middle of the whole show. But in California, there's 2 cities, Coalinga and Atwater cities. Never heard of Atwater, but I have heard of Coalinga. That is from my old timeline. Have refused to shut down. They just said no. So they said no to our governor, Gavin Newsom. We are not shutting down. Neener, neener. So I've been kind of watching that. And so far, all that Newsom has done has said that you're not eligible for any COVID assistance monies. But Coalinga and Atwater said, yeah, but we're going to lose more money by locking down because of the economic impact. So you can keep your stupid money. Not in those terms, of course. And they're not shutting down. So I find that really interesting. I'm curious to see what happens, because if this gets too stupid and nothing happens to Atwater and Coalinga, will more mayors just go, this is it, I'm opening, and what you're going to do about it? It opens up an interesting door about regional power. You can't push us too far, or we're going to not listen. If you go to Abu Dhabi, you have to test for the sea 2 days before you go, and every time you want to go there. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if some countries are doing that. I'm not going to be traveling there until this whole... I'm thinking we're going to have at least another winter of this baloney, but I'm thinking maybe by next, like a year from now. I mean, if people still don't know people dying all over the place, then I just don't see how they can keep it up more than like another winter's worth of this. Okay, so um, another one that's got Virginians, state of Virginia in the United States, freaking out is the health minister, I believe he was, says he said will mandate vaccines unless you have a health exemption. So when he says that if he's still in power or in office at that time, he will mandate vaccines um, for the state of Virginia once there's a vaccine for the C. So I heard a lot of Virginians are kind of flipping out about that. Um, it could be that they'll back up some because I see a lot. They'll say something extreme, and then if there's pushback, they'll dial it back, and if there's not pushback, they'll leave it there. But I'm tired of Germany getting a bad rap. Well, Australia, I think, is kind of got at the head of the bad rap classroom right now. So I don't think Germany's high on that list right now. Maybe Canada, maybe a little higher. All right, so yes, so we've already got one state claiming that they're going to mandate. Let's see, what's this one? Okay. Heard about this one here from Andrew Sale. I did not know about New York Assembly Bill A99. See if I can spell A99. Okay, so this one hasn't actually passed, but it started January 9. It's kind of a little bit older bill, so you have to wonder why this happened just... All right, so like 1 year before the C, they are trying to push this bill through now. And basically this bill will allow them to, in New York, in the state of New York, if you are declared to be a public health danger, they can remove and detain you, force any medication on you, including a vaccine, and they specifically include the word vaccine in there. They can house you wherever by order of the governor or any proxy of the governor working on the governor's behalf. So it sounds like basically anybody has been given the magic pointer finger that they have the power can do this. That doesn't have to be the police or anybody. Yeah, that's about it. It hasn't cleared yet, but it's again a very nervous making thing, and it just happened to be right before the C. All right. All right, this last one is a little bit complicated to explain. You probably heard this one floating around too. There's only one source of this. Let's see if I can find that one. So there's lots of articles, but they all came from this one person, like yummy vitamins or something. So she was looking at the primer test for the WHO PCR test. So the PCR test is how the WHO supposed to be the best way they have to test for the C. And so she was looking at, so what the test does is it supposedly tests for RNA sequences in the C that are special to the C. Now, they're supposed to be special to the C. And so they're trying to get ones that are special just to the C. So one of the ones that the primer tested for, and if you type in like bombshell and some of these words, you'll find it, because they all point back to the same source. I'm not going to run the whole YouTube because I might get a copyright strike, or I have a feeling they'll be specifically targeting that video, so any clips of it might be dangerous. But basically, what she found, and she does link straight back to the actual page on the WHO that says it, is that one of the sequences that they're hunting for, what it's one of the, no, I said that wrong. One of the primer sequences is this one, CTCC. So if you know about your DNA, there's like thymine and like there's like 4 of the molecules, I believe that's the right word, and they hook up with their opposite pairs, and that causes the double helix and blah. So these ones would, if you have this as the primer, then it'll hook up with its complementary string. Okay, so what she found is that this string, which is the primer, happens to be identical to a string in chromosome 8 of human DNA, and she also links that string in the human DNA. So that's kind of suspicious. Now, this primer here, if I'm understanding it correctly, would actually hunt for its complement. So it wouldn't directly hook up with its same exact unit. It's like they have to hook together, and they won't hook to their own kind. If you kind of study how the DNA is set up, then you'll kind of understand that. So, but the thing is that the human DNA then gets copied, and there'll be, if there's a human DNA string like this, then there'll be also its complement in an RNA sequences in the human cell. So basically, there's going to be RNA. If this string is in DNA, our DNA, then there's going to be RNA that have the complement of this string, and that RNA then could hook up to this primer. So when people are saying, "Oh no, it won't work because that uses reverse transcriptase," if you hear that, I don't think that they're considering that there'll be an RNA that will hook up to this. So basically, one of the primers out of 3 in the WHO would hook up to RNA in the human cell, just regular RNA. It's not the cRNA, whatever. So say one of your cells is damaged, a virus broke open your cell, cells die occasionally for whatever reason, whatever may happen, and some of that RNA is flopping around and comes in contact with this primer on this C test, and then this string will trigger as a positive match. So basically, this string is going to key to stuff that's in your normal cell. Now, they supposedly have to hit 3 different matches, this one plus 2 others, in order to be really a positive test. But who knows what those other 2 strings might key up with. Just, we found this one, so maybe the other ones are some other thing that hasn't been discovered yet that also could be found normally in the human body, or sometimes. I don't think it'd be every time, otherwise everybody would be positive. But, that it'd be like saying, I've got something that hunts for white cars, and so it would catch every house that has a white car. It won't catch all the houses because not all the houses have white cars, but it's kind of like that. It hunts for something that would be commonly found in the body because it is correlated with the human chromosome 8. So it may not find it every time, but it's going to find it some of the time. And the human chromosome 8 is not the C. So this could also go back to them not having isolated the C very well to start with, assuming that it isn't all total baloney. But it could get blamed on that. Oh, we thought we isolated it, but turned out some of it was cellular debris. There's like 100 stories I think could spin out from here. So anyways, yes, so more evidence that some of the tests, now this is the PCR test of the WHO. So this is not just your rapid tests that I've been talking about in the past as being inaccurate. Now we're talking about supposed to be the flagship test, the best test, the PCR test. Somebody else, I saw some people were bringing up, remember China had a PCR test, and then we were like, no, we're not going to use that one. We want a better test. And that was the excuse that why we were way behind on testing, because we had to develop our own test instead of using the existing one. So there's a lot of conspiracy theory about that. Well, maybe we wanted to get a test that was more likely to lead to a positive result. I don't know. Who the heck knows? But that's another interesting storyline that is flopping around right now. I think your volume could afford to go up a bit. I had to turn everything up to hear you. I haven't had any complaints, and when I play my own stuff back, it's pretty loud, so I'm probably not going to change it unless a lot of people tell me that. You may just have really weak sound on your computer. And remember, there's 2 sound options, because there's the sound option for the video, and then your own computer has the sounds. So if your computer sound volume is low, no matter how high you turn up your video one, it's not going to be very high. Sometimes you have to turn them both up. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely I've put the mic closer, and then people complain that my voice sounded weird, so I just put it back. They're using the 5-minute blood test for C here. No idea how accurate it is. Not very accurate from what I've seen. I believe vaccines I received as a kid caused me lifelong personal health problems. I've covered this before. In my old timeline, there wasn't a lot of evidence that vaccines were a problem. In this timeline, there are. So, different body, different history. Anything maybe from before may be totally wrong now. Epic Journeyman's in. Hello, hello. I don't think I've ever seen you on the channel. We never had any power, only the illusion of choice. I don't know if that's actually true, though, because I do think that we have more power than we think. And maybe we have the illusion of not having a choice. Maybe it's many layers. A lot of stuff happens, but in the end, you'll find your way through, I think. Notice how everyone is seeing Sasquatch now. No, I actually haven't. I might not be looking at the right circles, because I've been mostly watching the mandelas and the sea. They talk about all the department being canceled, money coming back to them, blah, 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 blah. Well, and I talked about last week how they were saying how if you eat a lot of greens, the metabolites from the chlorophyll can help your cells actually operate as similar to photosynthesis, turning light into power for your cells, and that's the human cells. So that's crazy stuff, That's way more crazy than vaccines being dangerous. I mean, when you're getting a vax, they're injecting a poison into your body. At least that's the old school vaccines. So that's not half as weird as humans being able to kind of photosynthesize and get power from light. That's totally weird. And then the economy still clacks along on magic fairy dust. I mean, it should have crashed like 10 times over. So I think the Mandela and magic fairy dust are propping up the economy. The bots seem also to be tied to the biblical 144K people who will stay on Earth during the end of the world events and the limit of questions saying only so many real in a world. I've definitely wondered about that, Are there really only 144,000 people? It could be. I certainly don't feel like I meet a lot of real people day to day. Especially now. Especially more than ever. It just seems like certain people, there is a person with a brain and everybody else is like zombie land. 95% of people are zombie land. The rest would have to be bots. Yeah, some kind of matrix creations. There's an Aussie version of Sasquatch. I've said it before, for me, Bigfoot was in one location in Alaska, and that was the only place that legend was, and now it's everywhere. It's just bit by bit has spread like a giant Mandela. So how's California doing these days? I don't know, same day, different, same baloney, different day. They're half unlocked and still half locked down, and I have a feeling this winter they're gonna ramp it up again. Been hotter than Hades. Weirdly, my room cools down really fast this year. I don't know if there's something weird about the air. Used to be my room is on the top floor and it's always like super hot and I could never cool the room down. And now that room cools down faster than the lower rooms. It defies logic. I'm not complaining though. Pretty soon there will be green-skinned people. I really would not be super shocked if we started to see, oh, there's this rare disease and and then you get used to the concept and then, oh, and yeah, it's just bit by bit like that. Yeah. If there were more colors of people, would we still be able to be prejudiced? It would get too complicated after a while. %30 of YouTube and Reddit is bots. So I wouldn't be surprised. If you want to go with the conventional thought processes, you've got plenty of evidence that there's like AIs, bots all over the place pushing narratives. Then if you want to go with the more metaphysical interpretation, I think there's a pretty good argument for, you know, simulated people, like non-player character types. It's interesting how we've got both of those concepts developing at the same time. When you really feel like strangling somebody, some idiot online, just think about them. Maybe they're just a bot. Is it even worth getting upset and spending an hour arguing with a bot? When you think about it that way, I'm like, why am I even wasting my time on this? They're going to think what they're going to think. All right, I got that one. All right, I covered that one. Okay, so yeah, you saw the bombshell one. If you type that in, and you will find bombshell, WHO PCR tests, chromosome 8. You'll find it, no problemos. There's you can still find some stuff on YouTube, like the original person. I don't know how long that will stay up there. All right, I covered that one. But then you can go to like BitChute, and Yandex.com search engine is a lot easier to find stuff too. All right, I think I got all. I think that's all of the C stuff. Yes. All right, I got all that stuff. Yes. All right, let's start with woodpeckers. Now we're going on to the mandelas. This is part of here's an example, and I was saying earlier that nature could solve any problem, including green-blooded children to red-blooded parents, if it wants to. So I actually read on woodpeckers like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and they talked about how they have a specially protected brain so that when they hammer their beak on things, their brains don't, get toasted. And they never, ever, ever once mentioned this. So apparently now woodpeckers have a tongue that starts in their upper beak area and goes all the way around their skull and then out the bottom, and then they can stick it out. And so they can stick it out like 3 times the length of their beak. So like I've said before, I don't even remember birds having tongues like 10 years ago. But now this thing has a tongue that wraps around its entire skull, and they can stick it out really, really, really far like an anteater. And apparently now they do stick their little beaks in like ant hills and eat like anteaters now. And then they can suck it back in and wrap it around their brain for when they want to peck. And it's got like a bunch of bone and cartilage and tongue material all together, and it like protects their brain from their pounding. So there's some images of it. See, so here's the tongue, like this is the tongue channels, and this tongue can now slurp way out here, and it's got little barbs on the end too, in case that wasn't weird enough already. And then it can slurp it all the way back in, wrapped it around its brain. That definitely, you would think that when I was researching about how woodpeckers can keep their brains from getting hammered, they would mention something about that tongue back then, but no, because that was from the Birds Without Tongues timeline. Pretty bizarre. So I'm calling total and absolute Mandela on that one. No freaking way. I don't remember Woody Woodpecker ever showing his tongue. Yeah, they should have that should be like a thing, you know? You got like this 4-foot tongue and you're a bird. There's no way. So they're like, oh, only people who really specialize in birds know this. Like, no, this would be totally, like, it's totally weird and everybody would want to know about it. There'd be like a million videos on the crazy, brain wrapping, 3-foot long woodpecker tongue. Just no way. Kat Moore remembers reporting on this before. No, I'm positive I did not report on this one in the timeline I remember. I mean, there's times when I'm not 100% sure, but no, I'm sure I have not seen this tongue one in this timeline. Maybe I found out about it earlier in another timeline. It's entirely possible because the things you're describing, I see it in other people's videos all the time. Like, wait, you already made this video. Wait, you said that before. Wait, your video changed. And we're all just like, you know, now I know how it feels to be on the other end of that. Like, I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, did I? But no, I'm sure I didn't this time. There's times I'm not 100%. I'm like, then you look hard enough, you almost think you could kind of remember. But no, not this time. Not in this timeline that I remember. It's funny how the word Emmy sounds exactly like Emmy. A lot of people have thought, you know, Emmy is basically the word me. And that, I think, is really apropos. I think it's very fitting. Because Emmys are really just me, my experience. I don't moderate on Redcon, but yeah, we had to appeal to the admins, and they told us we had to make a rule. But okay, since we still occasionally get some, we have to ban. Oh yeah, you had to ban the bot gamers. Yeah, exactly. Now, there's one I did report on. There was like some, I think it was like some squid or something. They have like a hole in their brain. They have a donut-shaped brain. They have a brain shaped like a donut. I don't know why that one always sticks in my head. When people say, what's your biggest Mandela? I always have that in the back of my head. But there's other ones I want to say first. But I'm like, seriously? This one has a donut-shaped brain. This one has a tongue that wraps around. This one's half male and half female. There's a whole race of lizards that don't have males. I mean, come on, people. I just assumed they had something like biological styrofoam around their brains. That's the way it was before. Songs that are catchy remembers the tongue. I wonder how far back you remember it, though, out of curiosity. I wonder what anteater's tongue wraps around. Yeah, where does the anteater store its tongue? Where does anteater store tongue? Now, they got a big old snout that's really long, so they could probably, like, slurp it up in there. There would be room in that mouth for a tongue. Where does an anteater's tongue go? The 2-foot-long tongue is attached to the sternum and can flick in and out. Sternum. So I guess it just sucks down into their chestal region. How does an anteater's tongue fit in its mouth? This is the latest Google thing. You ask a question, and then the answer does not answer the question. It answers a bunch of other stuff. It makes me a little crazy quite often. What body part does an anteater lack? Teeth. Oh, okay. It's not that weird. All right, back to the show. All right. Do you guys remember NASA saying they spent millions of dollars to develop a pen that would work in space? Do you remember that? Ooh, somebody give me $5. Woohoo! Somewhere. What must have... Oop, there it is. $5 from Pugsley Lovejoy. Still tripping on jet engines being longer and thinner and fully in front of the wings on poles. Yep. And for me, the wings are shorter, and they're more raked back than they used to be as well. They're just way shorter for me. Yeah, so do you guys remember that story where they said that we did that? And it was kind of like it was like a joke because America's such dumb because we spent millions making these special pens and the Russians just used pencils. And I read this everywhere, all over the place. Mandela is my first effect. That might be around then. That was my first effect. Mandela thought he died. There was a bunch around that time. The jet engines are now totally out in front. Yep. They were like sneaking forward. They're just, that's how the Mandela goes. It's like bit by bit by bit. Millimeter by millimeter. Somebody make a song, Where Does an Anteater's Tongue Go? Sounds good. Put a bunch of Mandelas in. Somebody should make like a Mandela song with like a whole bunch of Mandelas in it. And the Russians solved the problem with using a pencil. Okay, so now that story apparently is false. It's an old wives' tale. And the real story now is that we also use pencils. And we were never so dumb. And then later some company decided to make these pens on their own and market them kind of in a fake way because these can be used in space. Okay, my timeline, NASA invented it and then the company sold them. But in this timeline, the company invented them and then later NASA said, can we have some of those pens now that they're already made? So NASA did not waste a giant ton of money now. A private company wasted a ton of money. So, but I'm positive that was not the case. It was definitely us. When I check out past videos of yours with subtitles on, the subtitles don't match the videos. Most often it's just delay, like removed or added parts. I'm going to have to figure out how to put subtitles on because I didn't even know that you could have subtitles on my videos, to be honest. Okay, so, but rarely the auto-generated subtitles captions say something different. Hey, if you catch that, like put it in a comment with the timestamp. Like, okay, on this video at minute 20.1 it happens, and we'll see if we can catch it because I'm kind of curious. The pens were invented. Yeah, they were. It makes no real sense that they invented like a private company spent all this money on this pen. Like that would be a huge risk. And I mean, you really think you're going to make a lot of money on a pen that writes in space when we're not in space? I don't know. So I'm real suspicious about that. But anyway, it's an old wives' tale here. Epic Journeyman's writing songs. Sinbad song and a Bruce Springsteen style song about the Monopoly guy. What is that song? The Piano Man guy. And the words have changed to it too, so it's a Mandela by itself, but it would be easy to I'm like totally useless. I can't remember that song. I always thought about making a Mandela song out of it by changing all the lyrics because it's really catchy. So yeah, I do occasionally bop over to Epic Journeyman's channel. He posts like once every 6 months. So if I see it, I will point it out to the rest of y'all's. Maybe not 5 seconds after he posts it, but I will. Billy Joel, yeah. I think of Billy Joel's song that about all the historical. It's We Didn't Light the Fire. I always thought We Didn't Light the Fire would be a really good one to do Mandelas. I actually had kind of thought about it, but I'm like, you know what? I don't know how to play the piano, and you can't just steal their piano playing because then it's copyright. So it would be a humongous project, and I just realized there's just no way I have enough life force in me. But yeah, I always thought that would be a good song. But yeah, everybody's got their own vision, so they got to follow their own path. Okay. All right, this is just kind of another personal Mandela. Like last week, approximately a week ago, you know, I've said this before if you're on the channel a lot, that there's these ants that are really common to our area, and they keep changing their behavior. So the Argentine ant. So they used to just be ordinary black ants, and their claim to fame was that they didn't fight each other. So like if they ran into another colony of Argentine black ants, they wouldn't fight. So supposedly, like if red ants encounter another colony of red ants, they'll fight, but not Argentine ants. They're all buddies. So that lets them kind of take over because they never fight with each other, but they do fight with other ants. So they kind of wipe out the other ants. Okay, so these things are everywhere in California. They were up north where I used to live. Now they're here. They're just like the ant that is always everywhere, especially in houses. They started biting about 3 years ago, and they never used to be able to bite hard enough for you to feel them. And they started biting. They were getting really nasty, and they were really bitey, and it was starting to get really miserable because we have a lot of these ants. So that was like a huge ant Mandela. Live 50 years, and suddenly I'm getting bitten to death by these suckers. So we did actually poison and dial back the population, and that was like about a year's worth of biting. And they'll climb up on the bed. They send like lone runners out all over looking for food. And if one of those lone runners gets on your foot, they bite you. They just, it's making me crazy. I get bit like 6 or 7 times a day. Suddenly they stop biting. So then I looked them up again, and then they're saying, oh, they can bite, but they're pretty nice and they don't usually bite. I'm like, so the story changed again to they'll bite you to they don't usually bite you. So now lately they've been starting to bite again. So I don't know what's up with that, but I had like about 6 months of no bites, and now they're getting bitey. And then a week ago, I saw the other change was that for a while they had a bigger class of workers, like an extra strong worker, and he was like double big, okay? It's like honking ones, and so there'd be like a line of them, and like one extra big one, and then, another bunch of them, and then another extra big one. And then for a while, if you looked up Argentine ants, it said that class was there. And then they disappeared, and I looked up Argentine ants again, and they didn't say anything about the extra big ones. So like last week, I saw one of those extra big ones, but it was weird because it wasn't as bulky, but it was really long. It was almost like it was, I don't know, it was like, it was running in the line with the others. I'm like, okay, so we have extra big ones again, but they're like a little bit different than the last time. But then I just saw like 1 or 2, and then like 2 days later I looked it up, and they don't say that they're there. So, and then I haven't seen any more. So I don't know if I was just like in a timeline for like 5 minutes, and then I bopped back out of it where there was extra long ones. And then the other thing that happened around that same time is I have this fan. It's like a Dyson fan from it's really old, but they're kind of expensive because they don't have fan blades. They just work by like electromagnetics or something. And that button on that thing was like dying, so you'd have to like really push it to make it work. Suddenly that button worked great for like a week, and I had no problems. And now boom, it's back to sucking again. So I don't know if I was like in some other timeline for like a week when I felt real crappy. It's like the crappy timeline. And now it's the crappy timeline with extra long Argentine ants and a functioning fan, but I felt like crap. But now I'm back into the crappy fan and the regular ants. But I feel much better. So I don't know, maybe that's going to be one of my tells. When I look at those ants, and if I see any big ones, I know I shifted. We have flying ants. Yeah, they, for a while we've had ones that, green ants are meat eaters. Green ants? There's green ants? I've not heard of green ants. See, these aren't fire ants, though. They're ants that never could bite before. It was only red ants that used to bite. These are just boring, old, tiny, tiny little black ants. I mean, I've been bitten by fire ants. They're big. They got the big chompers. Anyway, they're starting to bite again. Not quite as hard as that other timeline, but little stinkies. Anyway, it's definitely not the worst problem. It's just like one of those super irritating things. Anyone noticed music and movies are now mentioning shoving? You know, I'm not really good at new stuff when it comes to media because I'm just not watching much of it. I just check a little bit of stuff. I'm not watching a whole hour-long stupid show on TV anymore. Silver ants. I've seen those beautiful silver ants. That was an early ME. They're beautiful, if you can say that about silver ants. Oh, I think I did see those green ants. They were like in Africa. Derp, derp. Are we going to see silver ants? You know. Alright, good. Images. Oh, there it is right there. Beautiful things. Mandela Affected channel had these on early on, but many of us were talking about them already. Look at, they're like chrome colored. They're beautiful. Metallic silver. Not just silvery, they're like chrome. Very beautiful. Check that out. And Mandela Affected used to like raise ants, so you can bet your Bippy that he knew all the cool ants. Something like this, and you're into ants, you would know about it. Alright, so there's this. Okay, now this one was found by Shari D. Kind of a weird little thing. Not Shari, the Mandela, that is. Sorry, Shari. It sounded bad. Right after I said it, I'm like, that sounds really bad. Daisugi. Kind of a weird Mandela. I don't even know how to categorize this. So apparently, and you know, for a while I was all into bonsai and the cutting of it, and never once did I see anything about this. It's called Daisugi. I assume the pronunciation is Daisugi. If you prune a cedar tree the right way, then you can get these saplings that are like perfect saplings that don't have like any knots. It's called Daisugi. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I know that saplings will shoot up if you cut things weird, but I've never seen anything like this. So you cut this and then you have these perfect ramrod straight saplings. So here they are, growing these perfect trees. They look like some kind of total fake business. Look at this. Does that look like total fakeness? Learn about Daisugi. So of course they're saying the technique is dying out and it's almost extinct. So in real life you're going to see more and more of it because that's really how it's going. But have you ever seen anything like this? Incredible 15th century Japanese technique for growing ultra straight cedar trees. Cancel the baloney. Look at that. That's a Mandela. A lot of people don't remember that painting existing. There are immense cedar forests planted along the hills. This Kitayama cedar. Oh, is this a different one? Oh, okay, no, this is still Daisugi. Is known for being exceptionally straight and without knots. So, anytime you have an offshoot branch, that's a knot, right? So this is going to have like no offshoot branches. It's going to be like a stick with just leaves on the top. With such a demand and lack of space, foresters came up with an ingenious way to grow more wood using less land. This involves the heavy pruning of the mother cedar tree, which encourages tall, thin saplings to shoot upwards. Think of it as bonsai on a large scale. The technique is called Daisugi and enables you to harvest more wood quickly. The shoots can either be planted or harvested. Shoots can be... So what, are they going to root these things somehow? Is that how they plant them? Similar techniques can be found dating back to ancient Rome, which was called polarding. Yeah, polarding, you just cut the top out and you get a bunch of weedy growth, but it wasn't like these perfect straight shoots like this. That's ridiculous. Yeah, you get a bunch of polarding. That's just when you cut the top way back, but look at, there's no side branches on this. So that's craziness. Anyway, I really don't think that was there. Not to this extent. Like, this is just an insane number of perfect straight. Fantasy Island, simulation. It's like somebody was too lazy to draw some real trees, so they just made them all ridiculously fake looking. I wonder if we're going to get a species of tree that does this naturally. Because look, I mean, the first images show a tree that's been cut to grow these, but these are in the ground, so they're claiming somehow they plant these things, like they somehow get roots to grow on such a big... Look at that. That's craziness. So I guess that would be convenient for woodworkers to have wood without knots. I'm like, no, that's bamboos there. Okay. Now we're in bamboo land. It looks so close to bamboo. Google got confused. So yeah, good find, Shari. That's craziness. Okay. Let's see what you guys are up to. Not receiving enough signal. See you in San Diego when the lockdown is over. You know, I mean, like, I still see people. So if you're in town, I probably, you can't fly without a bunch of baloney. But if you come by, let me know, because I'm not going to giant parties or anything. But I mean, like, I still go over to my friend's house, and we do dinner. I'm not holed up in my house. And of course, if you want to, but I'm not pushing anything on anybody. But the Daisugi may be a way to deal with lack of forest nowadays, so they need to make those to be able to farm wood for construction. Yeah. Well, I don't think it existed, so... So they're saying it's from 15th century. Okay, so anyway, next one, you saw the thumbnail. Does anything look weird about that symbol to you? Shari will probably know because they were talking about on Retconned. This was on Retconned, from the Evil Pack Rat is the name of the user. Symbol. Does anything look different to you? It was like 50-50 on this one. Some of us think something's fishy, and some of us don't. I didn't mean to click on the whole thing. Does anything look fishy on that one? Or like maybe that one? That one? All the ones I'm clicking on have the fishy. So you probably figure it out pretty fast. Unless you've always had it in your timeline. Because I didn't until recently. See, I think I saw this a few weeks ago, and I thought it was some rare version. But I'm looking now, and they all have it. I just typed in Masonic symbol. So 95% of these symbols have it now. You know, as much as I know about the Mandela, it kind of shocks me how many times I see stuff and still dismiss them. Like I do Mandela splaining to my own self. And this is a case of it because I saw this and then I just went, oh, it's probably some rare version. And I Mandela explained it. And I could have just checked, but I didn't. I dismissed it before I even gave myself a chance to think about it. So people on Redcon will probably know because they probably saw this thread. All right, Shari. I don't know, Shari, did you see it on Redcon, or you just, that's your first impression? It was about 50-50, I think, on Redcon. 50-50 saw the change, and the other 50 thought it was normal. Something is missing. There are some Freemasons. Okay, yeah. Bit of venoms. Yeah, okay. Catmore remembers no G. Yeah, see, for me, it was totally just this. No G. Now there's G. So some Masonic person was on saying that this, I guess, there's these levels now, or maybe there always was, but now they have the symbol in it, and this is like a lower level, and you get the G. But I'm looking at it, you know, I just typed in Masonic symbol, and almost all of them have the G in it. There's only a few that don't, and they were all like this for me before. No G. They were all the same. It's kind of like the Star Trek patches. They're all getting their own unique patches. The engineers have this. So now the Masonic symbols are getting different center pieces, and the G apparently is the number 1. It also kind of looks to me like maybe the it seems like the proportions are a little different or something. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it seems like the compass got bigger, and the T-square, oh no, it's not a T-square, the square, the ruler part got smaller or something. It just seems like it's a little different. Maybe the angle of the compass is a little tighter and leaving less room for ruler. Something's a little different about the rest of it besides the G for me. Let me look at this one and see. I just saw one that, like, this one looks a little better here. I can't quite put my finger in it. Anyway, so yeah, something's a little, I'm pretty sure that's it. I think that the compass is larger. The G was some level. I didn't really inspect it, but it meant some level, attainment level that wasn't super hard, they said, to get to. But then if the G is, then why aren't, like, I seeing a bunch of other attainment levels then? So G for gematria. Yeah, there was a bunch of, let me just see what that even stands for. The Masonic G stand for. That's a good question. I need to inspect that a little bit more. Geometry. So what are they arguing about it? What does the Masonic symbol mean? What the Masonic letter G in Freemasonry? Okay, so the official word from the Masonic Lodge for God and geometry. That our every act is done in the sight of the great architect of the universe. By letters 4 and science 5. I don't feel like I want to say that sentence somehow. Like somehow it's a... I'm not going to say the whole sentence. I don't know, it feels like I'm saying some kind of spell or something, so I'm not going to. What are the letters for? It is believed that they stand for Yahweh, the name of the W. Yahweh is another one that sort of showed up out of the woodwork about 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't hear that name for God before. Sometimes pronounced Jehovah. Now, I'd heard of Jehovah, but not Yahweh. What is the fifth science? Geometry. The letter G stands for geometry. When did the letter G become part of the square and compass? No one knows exactly. Yeah, how about like 3 weeks ago? But it is believed to be somewhere between 1730 and 1768 here in the United States. The G is not used in the center of the square and compasses in all jurisdictions around the world. Well, Google sure likes it. Throughout history, we see reference to the number 3 when we speak of the supreme architect of the universe, no matter which language we speak. Okay, never heard of that. Gimel, Gamma, Gammel. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything about the attainment level. I wonder if that guy on the guy that was on Redcon was full of baloney. Level G in Masons. What are the levels of the Masons? Okay, well, now this doesn't... I'm not seeing anything like that guy was talking about. Or... degrees, blah, blah, blah. Blue Lodge, a term not used in the UK. 3 traditional degrees in most jurisdictions, the rank of past or installed master. The ancient and accepted Scottish rite is a system of 33 degrees. I don't know. I'm not seeing it now, so I don't know. Whatever, either I switched timelines or that guy was full of bull, or he was from another timeline. Who the heck even knows anymore? Maybe he was just a big bot. That he was trying to explain away. He was trying to Mandela explain away the G as, oh, that's just a commonly, easily achieved attainment. Man, I got to start checking these troll stories a little bit more. My brother threw hash seeds out the window and grew 2 skunk plants by accident. He found out when the police came knocking. Yeah, they're weedy. You could grow them easily. I've seen people grow them like north here, anywhere. They're really not that hard. So I guess the trick now is, you know, when I was a kid, you just grew it. But now you have to grow like with the big giant buds, and they have to be all huge, and bigger is better, and blah, 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 blah. Otherwise... you suck, and the standards have gotten a lot higher than just growing them. If you strip a branch of bark and lightly scrape some of the glossy film, and then you tape a bag filled with wet dirt over... Yeah, actually, I have heard of that. I've never actually done it, but I have heard you could do that. I'm still really suspicious, though, of that... giant forest of perfectly upright trees. They must have been out there with, speaking of the compass and the T-square, you've got this big long stick tree and you're trying to get it perfectly upright, and not one of those is even going like this. Those are all manually planted, and none of them are like a little off. When you ever plant a tree and then like you pack all that soil, and then some of the soil settles and the tree tips at the side? Well, usually it doesn't matter, but you should be able to see. I just don't know how they would get all those trees to be like perfect. Some of the soil would settle on you. I mean, I know that the Japanese can be really meticulous, but I'm really suspicious about that. Bubbles, watch it on break at work. You don't need to do all that work anyway. It's too much work. Okay, so where are we? Got that. I think I'm coming down the home stretch. What do I got left over here? Yes. Okay. I only got 2 left. They're not really super exciting, but Still cool. Okay, so this one is from Mandela, commenter on the channel. And she doesn't remember shark nostrils. I've said before I don't remember bird nostrils. And after I didn't remember them, and I saw the little ones, and I've noticed they've gotten like bigger and bigger and bigger. So like bird nostrils are huge now. I don't know if they're going to be like giant. They're going to have like, just looking at that parrot, I just don't remember all this side stuff. Look at the nostrils on that parrot. All that stuff around the eye. I don't remember that look on these parrots here. All this crazy on the eye. Look at that. That wasn't on there before. Okay, so yeah, is that a real bird with that big eye? Guess so. I just don't remember these giant freaking nostrils. They're huge. Look at, they're huge. That's not just a hole. Now there's like a whole, it's not just a poke. It's like a whole circle with a centerpiece. Like, pretty soon there's going to be a whole freaking cartilaginous ear sticking out of them or something. So, yeah, sometimes if I'm just not 100% sure if something's a Mandela, just keep your eye on it and watch it get bigger and bigger. And that will be a very good indication that it probably was a Mandela because it is not done growing yet. Look at the nostrils on that thing. I mean, it really is almost a giant schnozola cartilaginous structure on that thing. Oh, this is new. The Pervious nostril. Okay, so that I don't remember birds having tongues either, I might add. So this is extra stupid looking to me. Okay, so we've got this bird apparently that the nostril goes all the way through. Yeah, I'm glad I looked at that. That's new. Turkeys. Oh, it's a turkey vulture. I'll just say if turkeys have that, I'm going to eat my hat. Okay, the Pervious nostril. Let me just look up what the Pervious nostril is supposed to be. I'm sure they're just going to say it's... I mean, look at the nostril on that. I'm getting all sidetracked now. This is my life. Like, I just look at one thing and then I see a new Mandela. And then I look at something else. Not previous. Pervious. Pervious. Nostril. Vulture. Show instead for Pervious nostril. I don't know. The Google said Pervious. I don't know. Oh, so many birds are getting those nictating membranes over their eyes now, too. Looks like vultures are getting it. All right, let me just go vulture nostril. So, yeah, like I said, the nostrils are getting big. Let's just go over here. The Pervious nostril, why vultures don't need Kleenex. An excellent feature of turkey vultures is see-through nostrils. Okay, so turkey vultures are native to like right here in San Diego. I've seen them lots of times. I've read about them. They did not have, I don't know, a keychain holder nostril. They absolutely did not have a keychain holder nostril. They lack a septum, so the opening of their sinus goes straight through to the top of their beak. This is handy for an organism which eats its meals with its head in the liquid grossness. Okay. The Pervious nostril can easily be seen in the photo above. If this vulture were chilly, it would keep warm by pulling his feathery neck ruff up to his ears by corrugating his forehead skin even more. The Pervious nostril is characteristic of the New World vultures. And But then when I looked up Pervious nostril vulture, it wouldn't come up. Google doesn't know about it yet. Alright, I'm going to see if I can find a wiki for that. If there is even wiki. See, Pervious nostrils are cool. There should at least be a wiki on it. I can't even hardly find anything on this Pervious nostril. Must include Pervious. Yeah, no. This must be like hot off the presses. I was just looking at nostrils not that long ago, and no. Okay, so anyway, shark nostrils. That was the original point of the show. And Della commenter noticed the shark nostrils. They're getting bigger and bigger. They were just little dinky dinks. Now look at, they're also growing some ear flap type things around their snoz. Look at how big. See, doesn't that look wrong? There's too many holes. What are all these holes? Those look kind of wrong too. Is that supposed to be the eyes? Anyways, there wasn't, what the heck? How many holes are in this thing? It kind of looks like there's one right there. I'm assuming those are the eyes. Anyway, it looks so wrong. Alright, no more jokes. Look at, that was just a dot before. Schnozolas. These guys are small still. Big. So yeah, keep an eye on these nostrils. Something's going on. Look at those. I swear they're going to have, like, I don't know what they're going to grow on there next. But those seem to be, there's been a big jump in nostriliferousness. I have not seen these. They're kind of making it out like whiskers, but they're not. See, they're starting to look like eyes, but they're not. This back throat area is looking weird, too. I think it started with these guys. I remember this curlicue thing, but they weren't nostrils, I don't think, originally. Maybe they were. Anyway, these ones have gotten weirder and weirder also. That's another weird shark from a few years ago. Ooh, hammerheads are looking weird. Wait, let me just do a quick hammerhead search. I don't remember all that swoopy stuff on the front head. Hammerhead. Whoops, can't spell shark. Yeah. Okay, so I just remember it being kind of straight across, not like curved like that. It's looking like a sickle shape. I don't remember it being that big. Yeah, it's looking a lot bigger. That doesn't look right. Look at that. That looks so wrong. I mean, there were hammerheads in my old timeline, but they didn't look like that. And I looked at them like a year ago, and they didn't look like that. I wonder. Bats. I was going to see what other things they suggested. Because there was worm, bat. I think, what was it? The worm, you can barely kill them. You chop them up. There's the hammerhead worm. You chop them up and they like grow multiple of their own kind from the bits. Hammerhead coffee. Just wanted to see what other suggestions we got. Okay. False alarm there. All right, and I got one more. See what you guys are up to. I need to get... We need a... Yeah. I don't know. See, that movie, I didn't really watch it that much, so that's not a big ME for me, but it has flip-flopped. I'll let you tell the shark you don't like his face. Well, I won't be telling it to his face. Yeah, you see it. You see the hammerhead looks different. Gromias, homias. Okay, what about hammerhead nostrils? Yeah, I got sidetracked. Okay. The farthest part of a shark's nostrils are the greater time lag between the two nostrils. Then the hammerhead might still be able to process that and get direction from it, where a pointy-nosed shark might see it as simultaneous hit to both nostrils. Do hammerhead sharks have nostrils? The wide spacing. Okay, so they're saying now that the spacing of the nostrils helps them track down food. I think it's right there. Nostrils, nostrils. The heck is that? My brain's having trouble understanding. I think that this is the nostril here, and then the eye is out over there. I think I remember the eye being more forward seeing. Like the eye being over here, and then no nostrils. I don't remember. How did they even see? I mean, like, how do you see where you're going if your eye is so off to the side? It's pretty bizarre. I think it has to be in there. Where else? They said they're far apart, so they're not going to be in the middle over here. Maybe that's part of the reason it's getting that weird head shape, because they got to have some clefts for the nostril to develop in. Oh, what's that thing? Winghead shark? Is that still alive? All right, I'm checking it out. Is it live or is it Memorex? Oh, so that's real winghead shark. So there's another one. My old timeline, there was just hammerheads, and that was it. Then we had those weird sawtooth ones, and I was suspicious about those, but I now think they're a Mandela. But back then, you know, it was a while ago. But those kind of showed up. So we've got now 9 species. So we've got these winghead sharks. That looks so stupid. It just looks so crazy. Let's see what the 9 species of hammerhead are. I don't know, you know, I'm sure the hammerhead looks totally stupid too, but I'm used to the hammerhead because I saw it before when I was growing up. Alright, oh, okay, so I think we're getting a bunch of kinds now. Gray, that looks a little more like I remember, but just don't remember the eyes out to the side like that. Scalloped, okay, so this accounts for it. There's been a species split. Smooth. So all these, like, none of them are going to look quite like the original. Winghead. It's ridiculous. Bonnet head. Scalloped bonnet head. Scoop head. And small eye. Carolina. Okay, so yeah, there's all the shapes you can think up. There'll probably be a lot more. No, that's it. There was a species split. That one's the extra weirdest one, though. Winghead shark. That just looks like, I don't know, like some kid got confused when he was drawing it. It must not be too mean. Look at, they're just grabbing him by the head. All right, all right, all right. Concentrate, Eva. Concentrate. The blue whale is no longer extinct. Gosh, I think I had those, but they were near extinction. Somebody. I miss those days when worms were the weirdest animals on Earth because they could live after you have them. You know, like way back when I was in high school, it was the planaria. And then like maybe 10 years later, they started saying worms could do it. And then it was just worms for a really long time. But stuff's rapidly changing now. Predators have stereo vision for hunting seems impossible with those sharks. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Predators usually have the forward-facing vision, so you could... Now, some of them looks like the eyes might be able to swivel around and still see forward, but some of them it doesn't look like it. Hard-shelled. Some people remember Nautilus all being extinct. They were not for me in the 2000s. I'm not sure beyond that, but I know in the 2000s there were shells available and they were extant. They were still in existence in the 2000s. Before that, I'm not sure though. And it could be that they were extinct before that. The compass was gradual decrease in thickness from the joint to the tips. Now it goes from thick branch to thin branch, too abruptly, in the Masonic logo. Yeah, there's something different about it, definitely. Okay, so the last one. Ooh, I'm going to get it done in almost 2 hours today. It's a miracle. I didn't have that many, though. I think I get it done faster when I'm awake, because I talk faster and I can concentrate better. Okay, just kind of popped up. This one's extra weird because nothing really killed hornworms before except for like birds, you know, and like rats or something. Hornworms are those giant green ones that eat all your tomatoes, and they're like tomato leaf colored. I swear, for such a big gross looking worm, they can really hide well. But now this timeline loves this storyline where some predator lays its eggs in some body, and then they hatch as the animal's still alive and eat the center out of that animal, and it's all gross. But this timeline loves that. Fungus do it. Other insects do it. So apparently they have these braconid wasps that get on hornworms. But one of the reasons I wanted to put this on here, so look at this poor worm. These are all, so these eggs get like laid into the worm, and then they grow up and they have these little cocoony things, and they're just feeding on this worm. But apparently as these get older, they have stingers, and they are wasps. So if you were to accidentally touch this hornworm, you would get stung a bunch of times. According to some people I read, I actually had trouble finding much information on these braconid wasps. I think that's another like newcomer to the timeline because the wiki is, well, it looks like a different kind there. So anyway, these caterpillars are stuck with these things now. There is, and there's a whole bunch of kinds of these wasps. So I think we're going to see more and more of this grossness. Seeing this one's like a different color, and it's a different caterpillar. So yeah, some people were saying if you touch those and they're older, you'll get stung a bunch of times. So be careful. If you see one of these, don't be touching it. Just to be on the safe side. I couldn't really totally verify that, but there's not much on like the wiki and stuff. You would think something that gross that could maybe sting you would be, you know, a little bit, have a little bit. Actually, it's looking better. Somehow, I looked up another term on the wiki and it was really short, but this one is fairly long. Did it show up that fast? or did I just do a different term before? Hosts, sugarcane borer, blah, 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 leaf miner, tomato hornworm, fruit fly larva. See, it doesn't say anything about whether they can sting you when they're on there. They'd be kind of interesting if they could, because then in a way they would be protecting the hornworm from getting eaten. So I'm kind of curious how that would... then you could almost say that it was... If the hornworm survives, you could almost say that it was, in some ways, mutually beneficial. But... 17,000 recognized species... These little parasitoids. All right, so that's about it. See that the mouths inside the sharks are getting these weird ribs. First it was that mega mouth, and now it's like all of them. I don't remember them being like that. First it was just that one, but see, now they're all getting like that. And the mega mouths and the whales were the first ones. All right, new mandelas everywhere. Yeah, I know they're talking about the looting and stuff. I think we have to be really careful what we assume is really happening. Because 99% of the protests, there's apparently no looting. I mean, we've had hundreds of protests around here. There was looting at one. It's usually just one or two people doing it. We don't know if they're really just gang members, people there really there at the protest just taking advantage of it, or they really are protesters that are angry. If they're police, try to stir it up. There's a lot of protesters who are claiming that police have undercover friends that go in and try to cause trouble. There's so many storylines now, and we just don't know who's behind it. And it may be some of all of the above for these protests. But, 99% of protesters don't do these things, and 99% of protests don't devolve into looting and stuff. So we're talking about a very small percentage of the group, and we don't even know if they really are specifically on the side of the protesters to start with. We don't know what side they're on, so we have to be really careful about what we believe we assume to be true, because I think we can't know that. Agent provocateurs. It could be, or it could be really just that the protests are out of control. I don't know, but I don't think it's safe to assume, is all I'm saying. Just watch everything with a really critical eye, especially anything that's on TV. Anything that either the Republicans or the Democrats are really pushing, any of those storylines that are being hammered home, I would be very suspicious of any of those storylines. as maybe having ulterior motives. Even if there's, 99% truth, but there's 1% lie, that 1% lie, I call it, the nice term is I call it a bologna sandwich when I'm not live on and 1,000 people are watching. I have another less PG word I use, but a bologna sandwich is basically you got some good pieces of bread and some nice cheese and some mayo and some lettuce, and most of the sandwich is really good and it looks delicious, and if you've ever not had meat and you put all the stuff in, it's still pretty good without the meat. Then you just have a thin slice of bologna in there, and that's how they slip the lies in, by having a whole bunch of truth around it, and you don't really notice that last little detail that they're pushing. So scrutinize every aspect of what you choose to assume is true, is all I'm saying. I think you're better off being a little suspicious of every last thing, would be better than just accepting anything. Even what I say, totally, take it under consideration, please, but do not accept it just because I said so. And don't do that for anybody. They just passed it in the UK, kids to wear masks in corridors because CV don't go in rooms. Yeah, it's like, how silly can it get? It's just like, it's like how we have to take our shoes off to get on the airplane, even though we're allowed to carry baggies of liquids in. I could carry tons of stuff in those little baggies of liquids. They never test my little baggies of liquid. Not that I'm pulling anything weird in there, but, they never test any of those, yet I have to take my shoes off. What do they think they're going to find in my shoe that I couldn't just put in my little baggie of liquid of any color whatsoever? Because you can have a whole bunch of the little, yes, they're 3 ounces, the things, but you're not going to hide more than 6 ounces of anything in your shoe anyway. So why do we have to take our shoes? So, like, just because of 9/11, we had to take our shoes off for, like, all this time, and it's stupid, but yet they never stop. Nobody ever goes, why are we doing this stupid baloney? Nobody complains. So now there's like, it's like the shoes in the airport times 5,000. There's like 5,000 new stupid taking off of the shoes, putting on of the mask, yes here, no there. Like, I just went to this one restaurant I haven't been in a while, and so they push tables in front. It's like a buffet, but they have it all to go, so I guess they're getting away with it. But you pick what you want, and then they dish it all out, and then it's one of those 2-item combo with rice or noodles kind of places. If you're an American, you'll know what I'm talking about. So they push since you're not allowed to sit inside in California, they push the tables that you used to sit at all in front of the counter so you don't get too close to the food, even though they still have their glass partitions. But then we can't see the food, so we all lean up against these tables and lean way over and get our heads back to where they would have been anyway, so we can see the frickin' food, so we can choose our order. So it's just like now I'm doing the exact same thing, but I've got to lean over these stupid tables and put my little putty paws all over the tables. I'm probably putting cooties all over those tables just so I could see my food so I could order it. But, they probably feel that they have to do stuff to make it look like they're trying to battle the sea, and 99% of them are stupid things. And so now, like, every day is full of dumb. It's just like, I must be, the more I hate the dumbness of life, the more I'm apparently bringing it into my life, because now it's everywhere. Little petty, little baloney things that aren't going to do anything. So, yeah, there's my rant. Sorry. This is my 2:15 in the morning rant. Slave conditioning. Yeah, don't think. Just do 500 stupid petty things like this. Mindless. I mean, how many people even think about it? Okay. All right, anyway, I think I'm done with my ranting. Oh, it proves it rots teeth and gum disease. Are we talking about the fluoride? Yeah, I don't. Oh, mask mouth. I thought you were talking about fluoride. Yeah, um, fluoride in the water. I thought was the one. Fluoride in the water is another one. I know it's you guys probably kind of see it, but you know, it's a poison. There's absolutely no evidence that swallowing it down your throat helps your teeth any. There was at least some evidence that putting it on your teeth and letting it sit there and spitting it out might harden teeth. In fact, it does harden teeth. The problem is it makes teeth more brittle. So yes, they talk about hardening all the time, but they don't talk about brittle. And when your teeth get damaged, they don't dent. Hardness is not your problem. You're not having dents in your teeth. You're having them break. It's brittleness that's the problem. And all right, so if you look at glass and you look at jade, okay, and you throw them on the ground, there's jade and there's glass, and one breaks and one probably won't, and you know it's the glass that breaks. Okay, they're the same hardness. Glass and jade are about 6.5 on the Mohs hardness scale, but glass breaks and jade doesn't, because jade has toughness and glass has brittleness. And so that's what fluoride does. It makes things harder, but it makes them brittle. As you see with glass, that's not always a good thing. At least there was an argument, though, before that if you put it on your teeth, it is true that it makes your teeth harder. It mineralizes them with fluoride, and it makes them harder. Problem is, it makes them more brittle. But there was never any evidence that swallowing a toxic poison would do anything for your teeth. You put it in your stomach. I mean, how does putting something in your stomach cause it to... It was always stupid. So anyway, but you know, everybody went along with it, of course, because the dentist said so. But 99% of the dentists never researched it either. They just nod their head. So yeah, anyway, there's my rant for number... I guess I'm in rant mode. Yes. Okay, so I'll end with some good news. I've been making some progress with people I know on some of this stuff. You know, oh, another one that's hilarious. The CDC recently recommended that people who aren't very sick don't need to get tested for the C. They said just isolate at home for 2 weeks. If you're barely sick, you just have the sniffles or something, you don't have to run out and get tested. Just isolate for 2 weeks, and if you're not getting really sick, then you don't have to do it. That's the CDC recommendations. So of course now everybody's flipping out. Oh my God, the CDC is wrong. Now whenever the CDC says something scary, they're right, but when they say something like this, they're wrong. So I was just laughing because one of my coworkers, she was all yes. She's a yes man for the CDC. So I said, well, the CDC said blah blah blah. So she's like, oh, okay, that's good. But then, like just like the last day or two, the state governor suddenly decided that we have to ramp testing way up, and I was like laughing. I'm like, look, the CDC said that dial back the testing. You don't need to test people who aren't very sick. And right then, the governor decides we need to ramp testing way up. Of course, now we're going to hear that the cases are way up. Oh my God, because they're going to ramp up testing. And then there's going to be excuse for another lockdown because there's more outbreaks and more cases because we've ramped up testing. You know that's going to happen. But anyway, she started to see. I've been picking on her. Just, you know, I just say one little thing and I wait like 2 weeks and not say anything for a while and then say something. And so it's not overloading her, that I don't like layer it on, and she's starting to nod her head on this stuff. And there's another person that I've been doing the same thing with, albeit not as skillfully as I did with her, but I can get away with more with him. He puts up with my crap more. He's starting to nod his head on some of this stuff. People are starting to see if you don't push too hard and pick your stuff. Like, I don't talk about reptilians and flat earth because that's just too big a pill, okay? And some of it there's not enough evidence for. But there is evidence for the fact that the CDC said one thing and the governor said another. Those you can look up. They're totally 100% verifiable and very hard to argue with. So pick those things that they can't, that's not supposition, that's not opinion, that's not internet conspiracy, that you can show for sure this happened, and just work on people patiently. And I think you can wake some people up. So that's the good news. People are starting to get into a state where they're getting more suspicious. Now in a state, they say you have to put on a mask when you're on Zoom or Skype. You're joking me, right? I thought that was a joke. I heard that, but I thought that was a joke. Because that's absolutely ridiculous. Shari, that is so stupid that I cannot. Are you sure that that wasn't a joke? Do you wear a mask during video Skype calls? I do, just in case. Just in case of what? Face mask working from home. DNR tells staff to wear masks for Zoom calls. What's DNR? DNR. Department of Natural Resources is telling employees to wear face masks on teleconferences even when they're not around others and at no risk for spreading the virus. Every employee must mask in a DNR facility. Also wear your mask even if you're at home to participate in virtual meetings. That's ridiculous. Who? This is a very good example of mass stupidity. Oh my God. Set the safety example which shows you, as a DNR and public service employee, care about safety and health of others. Oh my. You just can't. You can't make this stuff up. I can only hope that this is going to wake up some people, because this is just asinine. This is ridiculous. You just can't make this stuff up. All right, I don't see a state doing it unless you know what state it is. People think another lockdown is coming to Scotland. Hope it ain't. Nope, it ain't. Or hope it ain't. I'm not sure which one. I really do think we're going to see a whole bunch more bull this winter, because then they're going to say, they're already talking about the twin pandemic. I've heard that a few times. It's going to be half flu and half the sea. So there's already conspiracy theorists going, oh, it's like the Twin Towers, and I don't know, but I really think they're ramping up for a bunch of baloney this winter. I don't think they could push it much past the spring. Something's got to give. There'll probably be the big vaccine wars then at that point about who's going to get it and who's not. But I think we'll see more. I want to be wrong. I'll be happy to be wrong. Let me be wrong. It says it doesn't protect against CV or viruses. Madness. Yeah, the mask company says. I've said this before, though. I could explain that away in that there are regular masks, like surgical and N95s, have, according to research, a percentage of protection, but they're not 100%. So for lawsuit reasons, they're going to say, don't rely on the mask. I mean, if I was selling masks, I would do the same thing. So it could just be for lawsuit reasons. But yes, in this timeline, I also think it's because this timeline likes to be as ridiculous as possible and see how much bull you'll take. But in my old timeline, I would have said it was for lawsuit reasons. As a business person, I do think of these things, but Yeah, a lot of people don't understand what an RNA vaccine is. They think it's them old school vaccines like they used to get. They're talking about the, pieces of the protein and like that. They're not, they don't have any idea that this is a whole new kind of a vaccine that has never been successfully passed safety trials for humans before ever. They have no idea that it reprograms their RNA and probably will affect their DNA, and it does. They have no idea it takes over their cells. Now they're saying this is another thing to watch for. They've been kind of for the immunity issue. Like, okay, any other virus you get, you have immunity for years. Like, if you get a vaccine for I think the shortest one I've heard of is lockjaw. What do you call that one? Tetanus. Tetanus. They want you to get they want you to get the shot every 10 years. So if you get a nasty cut, then it's been 10 years. They want you to get it again. That's the shortest one I've ever heard of is that one, and maybe like tuberculosis. But again, it's a decade. You get 10 years at least of immunity. But suddenly, for some reason, there's all this talk like, oh, even a month later, you've got no antibodies. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And there's no other vaccines or viruses that are like that. It's at least should last years and years. So then they're like, oh, well, just because you had it doesn't mean you're immune. And they're starting to push like that you would have to get the vaccine every couple months because the antibodies will wear out. So, I mean, like, you're going to inject, it's not just once that you're going to be injecting this GMO cell altering, taking over of your messenger RNA in your cells vaccine. Now they're talking about doing it over and over and having this COVID pass where you have to go every couple months and get it redone and the other, So that's another weird thing about the sea now all of a sudden. Suddenly a vaccine's not good for 10 years anymore. Apparently once a year for the flu wasn't enough for them. Now it's got to be like every couple months. So another suspicious thing. Yeah, I could get into the whole 5G thing. I don't know that a lot of that stuff I think is maybe true in this timeline or become true or be in the process of becoming true. I don't think it was in my old timeline, but everything's different here. So it's kind of a lot of these are new storylines for me. So I try to stay with stuff where we got kind of some concrete evidence for. There's a lot of stories that are real interesting. Oh, that's one other thing. I should have known I was never going to get done in 2 hours. There was one other thing I was going to mention about the Masons. Okay, I've been kind of mumbling about the Tartaria thing and the story of the Tartaria structures. So when I first learned of the Masons, the Masonic thing, the first thing I really thought of was like, if you think of a secret society, you usually think of some monks or some scholarly types or born into a special family or something. You would not think, if you'd never heard of it before, I'll tell you, I don't think that you would think a bunch of bricklayers have a secret society, okay? It'd be like the plumbers' secret society or the ditch diggers' secret society. Bricklayers are the salt of the earth. They're sweating away. It's just it's not the last society on earth you'd think would have a secret society, but it's getting down there on the unlikely side. Okay, bricklayers. Nah. I always was like, bricklayers? I mean, for years I'm just like, I just couldn't take it seriously. I mean, bricklayers? I mean, really? Okay, so just this week it suddenly occurred to me it's starting to make more sense, because now we've got all this conspiracy theory about the Masons, and then we got this Tartaria thing. And what is one of the tenets that's really growing on this Tartaria thing is that buildings that we have now were not constructed by our race. Like maybe they were constructed by giants or some other civilization, and we just stole them. And that's all these old, big, beautiful buildings. beautiful ones that were built like in the 1800s, supposedly built in the 1800s or before. So now we've got this ancient secret society of bricklayers, and then we've got this huge conspiracy theory that has to do with mason buildings and brick buildings and who actually built those and if they had some special skills or what. So it's starting to come together, and I haven't seen anybody make that connection yet. But and you know, maybe they have. It's not exactly the most novel connection to make. So I'm going to be curious to see if those two storylines start to connect up. That the Masons somehow have some secrets. Either they're hiding something about the origins of these things or whatever. Um, it could be interesting. All right, so I'm really really gonna end it now for reals. So yeah, like I said before, try to think positive thoughts. We'll get through it. There may be some hairy spots. Look for. Remember, there's ways around everything. There always is going to be, no matter how bad it looks. A lot of it is going to be storyline, and all you need is one chink in the armor, one way to get through, one excuse, one path through. There's always paths through. No matter what situation there is, you're never totally doomed. There's always paths through, but you have to know they're there and look for them and be ready to accept them. So you know, as we go forward through this winter, try to keep that in mind. There's going to be ways through. The Tartarian story of the Freemasons is they got the masonry for free after the reset, and that's their so-called Freemasons. Huh. That they got the buildings for free? Huh. Well, okay. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I kind of figured I couldn't have been the first one to think of that. I haven't seen anybody say it yet, but... Okay, so anyways, yeah, look for the routes through. Remember, there's always routes through. There's going to be chinks in the armor for us. Look for them. And I think it's true with everything. You know, whenever a problem looks impossible, there's always a route around, and it could. And it a lot of times it's stuff you would have never thought of. So just because you can't think of a way through, a route around, or a solution to a problem, just because you can't think of one, there's still one. There's still at least one. There's probably a lot. So try to just open your mind to that there is going to be a route, multiple routes, even if you can't think of it yet. So anyways, think good thoughts, everyone. And thank you for the live chats. As you can see, I've got it up and running again. The super chats. And this is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.